Okay, March 16, 2024, approximately our oh, my these came off. Hang on, my thing came off. Okay, don't come off this time. Okay, it's a little pretty. March 16, 2024, it's about 6 PM. Fucking hell, was that bitch. Fucking singing lady. I actually recorded this yesterday. And what happened was, earlier today, I feel that strap's about to go pop. There, it doesn't stay on properly. Oh, and I don't want it to wreck my hair. I can't wreck my hair. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to leave it unstrapped if necessary. Such a temperamental thing. Now, I actually recorded this yesterday, and what happened was, this morning I was going to record something, and I decided to delete footage that I'd done yesterday, which I thought I'd uploaded, and there was one particular file which I had recorded but I had not uploaded. I just went delete because I wanted to record that bitch over there, fucking bad neighbour, and because all the bullshit that was going on here this morning. Now, I did have something on my mind yesterday. What happened was, and I remember everything that I said, I was at Broadway Shopping Centre yesterday in Sydney, City Road. I was there, and I was walking past a shop. But Michelle was doing something at Broadway. She needed to go to the bank, and I was walking past the shop, and my memory got triggered, right? And I thought back to a particular time. Thought about something. I actually think about it occasionally, right? So, my friend David lived at Glebe. He lived on the corner of Glebe Point Road, and what's that other road? The Ancient Britain Hotel. Is it the Ancient Britain Hotel? It's on the corner. Right, the Ancient Britain Hotel's on the corner, and then on the opposite corner you got, like, I think, Vinnie's, right? And then diagonal to that you've got that park at Glebe. And then you've got an apartment, all these trees, and you've got an apartment building. Well, my friend David, he lived there in about 2000, between 2000. I think he moved there. He was there in 2000. Actually, he was there in 2001. And he left late 2001. And what happened was, I house-sitted for him there at Glebe. I house-sitted for him. And I house-sitted for about approximately 4 to 5 months. Ended up doing about 4 to 5 months there. And because what happened was, he met this woman, and he was going to have a trial run of living with her. And he called me and he said, "Pat, got a proposition for you." He said, he's going to go living with his woman at the time. And he said, "So would you like to house sit for me at Glebe in his one bedroom apartment? Quite good. I learnt to cook. I had some good independence, because at the time I was living at home with Mum and Dad, and so that would bring me to late 20s, and so I did this for him a few times. Now, but about the third time that I was doing it, because he was with his woman at the time, it was going well, and what happened was, about the third time that I was there, is that on that song? But the third time that I was there, I get this call one day, because David had a landline there. David's older than me by about a year. About a year? He's about a year older than me. Actually, it could be 2 years older than me. I've known David since 1993. We were at shop front together at Carlton. He joined me in second season at shop front. So we've known each other quite many years. And I want to catch up with him soon. I digress. Now, so this phone call came through one day while I believe, and I answered the phone. I usually do it. It was a guy now that ran, must be about mid-20s or so, maybe a little bit older. He's like, "Oh, is this such and such?" Because I think he was trying to reach a particular company or something. He was trying to reach someone for a reference. He said, I'm going for a job, for a labourer's job, and I just, he asked me, because he thought that I was somebody else, and I explained that I wasn't, and that was the only number that he had. I can't remember the particular details now, but he said, can you please put in a good word for me so I can get this job? And I made it a bit complicated, because I decided to get David involved. I called David. I said, David, look, this guy, he called the landline today. I related to David what the situation was about, and David said, look, if you start putting in a good word for everyone that calls my number, and it ends up being the wrong number, like anyone that calls the landline, and you start doing that, I'll be doing it for David's a good guy. The thing is, I didn't need to get David involved in that. Looking back now, and I've actually looked back at this a few times over the years, what I could have done, what I should have done back then, is just say to that guy in the bank, because he just wanted me to put in a good word for him. He said, oh, can you please just can you just put in a good word for me, please? Can you just say that I've done this and that? And he said, it's so important for me to get this next job. I could have just put in a good word for him. I could have waited for them to call and say, hey, look, this guy, I'd say, yeah, he's good, he's cool, yep, great, everything, yep, good guy, known him for a while, blah, 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 blah. And because I said to him, I ended up saying no to him. I said, no, I can't, this is not my place, it's my friend's place, and I made it a little bit complicated, and he became sad and frustrated with me, and mate, do you remember that? Do you remember that? I mean, the guy that called me, the guy that called David's landline. I hope you did well. I hope you went on to good things. I hope that you are successful. I hope you ended up going on to good things. Okay? Because I ended up feeling a little bit. I ended up feeling a bit guilty about that. I easily could have helped you out, and all I had to do was say, yeah, sure, I know this guy. It's occasionally, every now and again, I remember it. And there's something else that came to mind, and yes, I'm going to write these things down. Something else that came to mind was, now this could have been in the late, this was definitely in the late 90s that this happened. It was in the late 90s. I was walking through the underground of the QVB one day, and I was in that was my younger years, immature years. I still have love for myself back then. I still love my younger self. I love my younger self. I was very immature. I was in a very different time of my life, a different phase of my life, and I was walking through the underground of the QVB. And this guy, I can't remember if he was walking this way or was walking that way. I'm pretty certain he must have been walking this way toward me. How old was I at the time? I was probably about, maybe I was about 23 at the time. This guy was all 50s rock and roll guy. He had almost like the Elvis hairdo. He was about 55 years of age at the time, and he had this rockabilly sort of rock and roll, really genuine rock and roll thing. And I looked at him, I was like, I was thinking, what it was, I thought he looked silly. You know what it was at the time? I wasn't sure about myself. I hadn't found my groove yet. I was insecure about myself. I was, I think, threatened by him. I was sort of mocking him. I was laughing at him. But really, I wasn't in touch with myself at that point yet. I wasn't expressing how I really felt about things, and especially my dress sense and whatnot, because once that I started to dress the way that I truly, once I really started to dress the way that I wanted, I started to, I would appreciate how other people were dressing at that time, and through the 90s, in the early 90s, I'd see a lot of people on the street who were very 70s orientated in their dress sense and 80s orientated, and they looked really cool. But once I started being more secure about myself and dressing the way I wanted, I started to sort of laugh a lot less at other people and more so be inspired by them, saying, oh, you look interesting, well, you're really interesting to look at, you're really curious to look at, you're pretty cool, and instead of like, and I've had many people do that to me, that I've had people look at me, they're like, and well, when you're expressing yourself the way that you want to, the people who laugh at you really just not in touch with themselves. They're quite threatened and intimidated by that. And this guy, then, I'm sorry that I mean, he doesn't know I did that. I don't think he cares that I did that. But at the time, I was like, look. But he was a rock and roll guy, rockabilly guy, and I'm thinking back now, yeah, pretty, cool, he was doing his thing, expressing himself, expressing his truth to the world, being himself. And look, I'll be 51 in April, and had a bit of a 50s crisis. I'll be 51 in April. Oh my gosh. Oh. That's in 4 weeks, because my birthday is April 22nd. I'm a Taurus. Actually, I'm on the cusp of Aries and Taurus, and I share the same birthday with Jack Nicholson and David Vincent too. Taurus, and so sexy. This guy that I remembered him from time to time. And the first time that I thought about this guy he probably didn't even see me, but I saw him and noticed him, and it was totally 50s. 50s, not my favourite era of things for music or for music and movies as such necessarily. They're kind of interesting in a sense. But now, see him now, I think, oh, look, he's quite interesting, isn't he? Yeah. In fact, the guy at the Commonwealth Bank at Broadway that Michelle was speaking to, I sat with her for a while. I did. I sat with her for a while, and the guy that's at the Commonwealth Bank at Broadway, he had this 80s haircut, black fringe in his hair, it's all down there, and I said, oh, you look pretty, you look interesting, that's very 80s. He said, oh, that's what I'm doing. So he's going for the Joan Jett look. So, the first time I thought about this was about, I think, probably 2010, when I really, was into my own. 2010, I was thinking back to this guy. I'm like, that's the guy that I kind of. Oh, hang on. If he was 50 in the year 1997 when I kept across his path, hang on, 10, 20. That's like 27 years ago, and he'd be in his 80s now. And what it is I remember things. I got to write these things down. A memory will come back to me. The situation that I've been in, the memory will come back to me, and I'll assess it. I'll assess it. I measure it up. I say, what's the truth here? How do I feel about it? What's my perspective now? And how do I feel about it now? I do that. My memories of the Sydney CBD during the 90s. Well, you had HMV and Virgin Megastore in the Pitt Street Mall, and they were, oh, yeah. I was talking about relating back to it last night to Michelle after that awful JB Hi-Fi experience I had. And in fact, actually, would you like to know that when Michelle was finishing up at Kodak, Darling Harbour, Michelle was finished up at Kodak, the guy that was starting up JB Hi-Fi offered her managerial position at JB Hi-Fi, but Michelle said, look, it's going to be too much work. And it was at a location which was far away from where she lived at the time, and she was like, nah, I'll pass up on that, thanks. But she offered the first managerial position. I might be slightly incorrect on that in regard to which position, but she was offered the managerial position. She said, nah, a bit too far away, I just want to focus on different things now at the moment. But you walked into HMV in the city, right? And you had the headphone station, and you had all the new releases out. You remember the displays back then were better, weren't they? Records weren't $55. They weren't $60. Records weren't $60 a pop. They were $20 a pop. Yeah, $20 a pop, I think. Oh, and CDs were always $22 because CDs at Big W, the new releases come in $22.80. But you could put the headphones on, right, the listening station, you get to listen to the song for 45 seconds, and 45 seconds of the song. And I remember Matthew McConaughey does this in Days Confused. He does. The girl walks past him, he's like, he does it. I think something to that effect, yeah. I'll talk about that soon because I watched that recently, about a month ago. Days Confused, one of my favourite 90s movies. It's so interesting because when I first saw it, those characters were older than me, and now I'm older than they are when they made it. Sydney CBD, the 90s, and there were so many interesting folk there because some of them had a very 70s way style about them, and some of them and were just coming out of there. Everything was still very much in the 1990s in Sydney. Everything was still very sort of, it was a cross section of 1980s and 1970s plus all the other previous decades which people were still embracing as part of that decade that they'd grown up in and enjoyed. So you had that as had the more catered for, but a lot of 80s style in there. I felt very emotional about. Could get very emotional about this. Yeah. And I think Generation Y annoy me. Generation Y, because they don't really, they're clueless and don't give a fuck. Maybe 5% of them know that battery power is going okay, isn't it? I'm recording after all this time. I'm recording. I am. Right. I'm recording. Yeah. And I met Malcolm Young. Balmain, at the Balmain Hotel. Because my friends were hanging out at Balmain one day because my friend lived at Balmain. Frank lived at Balmain with his brother Pete, who's the drummer of Sadistic Execution. No name dropping or anything like that. Pete, drummer of Sadistic Execution. Anyway, it was at the Balmain Hotel, and I was been out for the day, and I called Frank. And Frank said, or texted him, and he said, we're at the Balmain Hotel. So I went down to the Balmain Hotel. I'm sitting there with Frank and Pete. And Pete says, he says, Malcolm Young. Oh, I was like, that's Malcolm Young. So I went to the bar, bought 2 beers, one for me and Pete. I stopped at Malcolm Young's stable, and I was a bit, I don't know, being a bit goofy, and I was like, oh, hi Mr. Young, I'm a big fan. I was being weirdly diplomatic and to the point. I don't know, I was just like, big fan, and he thought, and I picked both beers up, took them back to the table, and Pete said he thought that beer was for him. And about Malcolm Young. Yeah, he was. I got a good energy from him. It was a rocking energy, like he was a pretty straight up guy, down to earth. I could almost call him a regular bloke, I suppose. In the same vicinity as him for about an hour. Talked to him for 20 seconds. Malcolm Young, yeah. And his son was there at the time. Malcolm Young's son is. I missed to cross paths with him. He's on the rock scene in Sydney. Malcolm Young is. Oh my goodness. Anyway, what's his son's name? He's about this high. He's got a beard. Oh my goodness, can't remember his name. I can't remember his name, but what I'm trying to say is that I've had like 30-second conversations with his son throughout the years with his son. So anyway. Yeah. Those situations. I try to help people. There was a Chinese woman who was moving extremely slowly. I was waiting for Michelle. She went to do something, and I said, I'll meet you here in a minute. So I'm waiting by the post office inside Broadway Shopping Centre, and I'm waiting, and this Chinese woman is walking very, very slowly. And I thought, some women don't really like being approached by guys. So I thought, I'll wait till Michelle comes out. So Michelle came back out and said, Michelle, I think there's and then she heard me. She's about 70. And Michelle asked her if she was okay. She was okay. I said, oh, hello, are you okay? She said, she was walking very, very slowly. I just wanted to make sure she was okay. And she was okay. I said, oh, good afternoon, good afternoon. You okay? She said, yes. So she was okay. What's that from? That 12 Monkeys, when Bruce Willis goes to the grill and the guy goes in here. It's like, he does that thing with his 12 Monkeys. Hey, was that fast? Was that fast? Oh, yeah. Concluded. Okay? Midnight Charlie and Patrick. Concluded. Thanks for watching.